Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rundown, where we talk about 2A news and conservative views. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. And today is Throat Punch Thursday.
Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Who's ready?
It's Throat Punch Thursday, bitch.
That's right. Today is Throat Punch Thursday, and trust me, there are plenty of throats that are ready to be punched this week. I'm telling you, folks, between the RNC and the events that occurred over the last week and everything that's been going on, there's a whole lot to talk about, a whole lot of questions to ask, and a whole lot of people to question about it. So we're going to have a good time. Well, at least we're going to have an interesting time. How about that? Want to encourage you, please comment. If you are watching the program live, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. If you're watching us on YouTube, you're watching us on Rumble, you're watching us on Facebook, or you're watching us on OpsLens, please go ahead and comment. I'll be monitoring the comments, and if I can get to your comments, I'll go ahead and I'll let folks know what you have to say. Anyway, but like I said, a lot to talk about, a lot to get into. But before we do, you know how we do it. We got to start off with a quick shout out to our sponsors. And we're going to start off by talking about our friends over there at Hitman Industries. If you are looking to do a brand new build, or maybe you're just looking to rebarrel your current rifle, can't think of a better place for you to go than Hitman Industries. You'll find them at hitmanindustries.net. You'll find pistol and rifle caliber barrels available for you, including Glock barrels. And by the way, if you are a first responder and you've never purchased from them before, let them know, because you're going to get a discount. Check them out today. Once again, hitmanindustries.net. Then we've got the California Republican Assembly, working to help elect conservatives at all level of government, from school board all the way up to President of the United States. In fact, Ronald Reagan once referred to CRA as the conscience of the Republican Party. So go to cragop.org, check them out. If you like what you see, become a member, because if you want to be a part of California's future today, you got to join CRA. And then we've got Hog Holsters, the place to go to get your concealed carry or tactical holster. They've got inside the waistband, outside the waistband. No matter what firearm you have or what setup you might have on it, trust me, they have what you need. Just go to hogholsters.com, and when you do, make sure you use the discount code THERUNDOWN. All caps, no spaces, and get a discount. That's right, just like it is right up there, and go ahead and get your discount today on us. That's hogholsters.com. And then finally, whatever you are looking for in terms of tactical gear, I'm talking outdoor, cold weather, hot weather, wet weather, I'm talking hat, I'm talking glasses, I'm talking boots, you name it, they have it at uscombatgear.com. They have a phenomenal, huge selection. They've got great pricing and fast shipping, veteran owned and operated. Check them out today, uscombatgear.com. All right, everyone's talking Secret Service right now. And you would think that, okay, here we are, 5-6 days later, you would think that we would know more about what happened last Saturday when the assassination attempt was conducted on the President of the United States, the soon-to-be President of the United States, former President, soon-to-be President again, Donald Trump. And I got to tell you, it seemed kind of weird, kind of strange that something like this in this day and age, with the technology and the planning and everything that's been going on, it seems strange that something like this could occur, that someone could come so close to killing the next president of the United States. But it happened. Now, you would think that it couldn't get any weirder. I mean, that it couldn't, your skepticism couldn't raise any more than when you saw what you saw. Except as the days go on, as the time goes on, I'm telling you, every day we're getting new information about what has occurred, about the thinking, about how it may have happened. And more, it's sounding unbelievable. When I say unbelievable, here's the reason why. And you saw the title of the show. Basically, it makes it seem like the Secret Service was either is either completely and utterly incompetent. Maybe just this team that was sent there was completely and utterly incompetent, or they were in on it. And when I say in on it, I'm not saying, they planned it with the kid. I'm just saying that the idea, or there was a concerted effort to not concern themselves about providing the best available, if not possible, protection for the former president, soon to be the next president. And I want you to put it in this context. Keep it in this context. Here is the guy who is the leading candidate for president of the United States. All right. He is this is a big event that he's going to before he's about to become the nominee for the Republican Party, right? And by the way, the nominee who is by all indications going to win, but before he gets his big boy Secret Service detail. And yet and still, this event occurs. Now, that in and of itself raises a lot of questions. It should raise a lot of questions, how something like this could happen. But then you add to it the fact that, well, even the day of, there were tons of videos that were coming out where people were, at the time, 2 minutes before the guy shot. The first videos that people were sharing showed that a full 2 minutes before the guy shot at the president, there were people pointing out to law enforcement and to Secret Service that there was someone on the roof. Right? Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped a step. The fact that the building from which the individual shot was up at most 150 meters away from the future president, most recent past president of the United States. So he was within 150 meters of Donald Trump. How did that happen? How was a building that was 150 meters away from the president only? And I'm saying that with a long gun, with an AR, like I said, at 150 meters with iron sights, I could hit something, and I'm not a great shot, but I could hit something with iron sights at that distance. Certain parts of the military, in order to qualify, you have to shoot something at 300 meters. Now, once again, I could be wrong. That's why I wish Mike was here, because I would love to bounce some of this stuff off of him and talk to him about it. But I'm believing that there's no way that this building should not have been within someone's consideration. So now we find out that, well, the building was actually identified as a place of concern, as a potential staging place for a shooter. So inside the building, there were Secret Service were stationed inside the building to keep an eye on the crowd in order to look for potential shooters. Now, they decided not to put someone on top of the building, where the shooter actually shot from, because they said that the roof was too sloped. The ceiling of it was the roof was too sloped. They don't want to. That's what Ms. Cheadle, the head of the Secret Service, came out and said. Well, we didn't put someone up there because it was a little too sloped, right? That's where, if you recall from yesterday, that's where we came up with this little image right here. You had the FBI agents on the inside, and then you had the slopey roof, right? That was the slopey roof that was up there. And yet somehow a shooter who was clearly not concerned with his own safety was able to get up on the roof and engage in his activity. Now, once again, I'm raising this question because I'm still very, very confused. Okay, so now we know that happened. Now, even before all this, several days before, they had received a credible threat that Iran might actually be engaging in some sort of an attack on President Trump because they were upset because he killed one of their supreme commanders. right? Just before he left office, he ordered a strike, which wound up killing one of their generals. And so they wanted to get back at him. So you knew, or at least you suspected, there was supposed to be a greater awareness, a greater presence of Secret Service. You were supposed to have stepped up or amped up measures in order to protect the president. But that's not what happened. But yet and still, it still happened. So once again, you wonder how could this have happened? How did we get here? Right? And then okay, now let's add this to it. So then you've got reports that Secret Service actually spotted the guy on the roof 20 minutes before gunfire erupted. Now, 10 minutes, this was like 10 minutes before the president started to speak. Secret Service was on the radio and they were made aware that there was someone on the roof. 10 minutes before the president started speaking. The president spoke for about 10 to 12 minutes, was on stage at least for 10 to 12 minutes before shots rang out. That means that was like 20 minutes. So that then raises the question, okay, so you're telling me that even though you had agents inside the building, you couldn't have sent, and it took you 20 minutes or more than 20 minutes, in 22 minutes or however long it was, you couldn't send an agent up to the roof? Or how about this? If you knew 10 minutes before the president went out on stage, how about this? How about you say, excuse me, Mr. President, we're going to have to hold for a few minutes while we go and check this guy out on the roof. Once again, this is not rocket science. This is not that hard. I'm asking very simple questions. And yet, we have a head of the Secret Service that can't answer any of these questions. Who, when asked, says, well, this was something that should not have happened. Okay, well, and we're going to learn from it so that it doesn't happen again. Well, wait. Some of these things are very simple questions. They're things that should not take a long time to answer. Why is it that Republican members of the Senate have to chase you through the Republican National Convention in order to get you to try and answer any questions about what happened? I'm not understanding this. Correct me if I'm wrong. Tell me, maybe you guys get it, but I'm finding it very difficult to believe. And by the way, you've got folks on the left who are saying, well, they're accusing it of being a setup because they're like, well, why was he allowed to stand up and stand there for 9 seconds and pump his fist in the air and take an iconic photo? That's what what's her face from over at MSNBC was saying. But I digress. To go back, he was able to stand up because he's a relatively tall guy. He's over 6 feet, and he had a Secret Service agent that was guarding his front, who seemed like she was barely 5 feet. So how was she supposed to cover him? How was she supposed to protect him, be in between him and the crowd? If she's between him and the crowd, obviously he can see. Obviously they can see him. I don't think, once again, I'll just say it again. I don't think I'm asking anything outrageous. I don't think I'm putting anything out there. I don't want to believe that the members of the Secret Service were in on this. But I also don't want to believe that the best of the best, and who knows, maybe President Trump didn't get the best of the best when it came to his Secret Service detail, because like I noted, when he went to the RNC, you noticed his Secret Service detail looked a lot different. DEI was not included in his new detail. There tended to be larger, more masculine, shall we say, agents who let's just put it this way. DEI was not part of their hiring. I'm pretty darn sure. And then at the same time, you've got the Secret Service seeming to be more concerned, putting out statements about how they're more concerned about the criticism that their female agents are getting than they are about the fact that they almost got the future president of the United States killed. I want you to think about that. If he had gotten shot, if his head had been turned, a quarter turn, a different direction, Donald Trump would be dead right now. It would be the greatest Secret Service failure ever. Ever. And yet, for some reason, we're not supposed to ask any questions. You're more concerned because people are questioning the DEI, or questioning whether or not your hiring practices and how you do things. You want to go on. You're going to go on Twitter and you're going to go on Facebook. You're going to do press releases defending your female agents, but you're not going to go out and say anything about the poor job that you did. Now, once again, I'm not saying that if he didn't have female agents on his detail that wouldn't have happened. But I think everyone can agree, based on what we saw, it wasn't a good look. You had one Secret Service agent cowering behind all of the other Secret Service agents while the shooting was going on, hiding behind other Secret Service agents. You had one who couldn't get her gun in her holster. And I already told you about that one. I'm a big believer in don't rush to reholster. There's never any time in which it's an emergency that you need to reholster your weapon. There's never any rush to reholster. At least there shouldn't be, right? Because you should keep your weapon out until the threat is gone. Until the threat is gone, until there's no more threat. Once you've determined there is a threat, you need to draw your weapon and should not go back into the holster until you've determined there's no longer a threat. So there's no need to rush. So I don't give her a hard time, but they did not look very assured of what was going on. Now, mind you, it was a chaotic moment. It was chaotic going on, but once again, it wasn't a good look. All that having been said, the first thing that the Secret Service should have been doing was focusing on how did it happen? Why did it happen? How do we make sure it doesn't happen again? And who is going to be fired? Because once again, and I'll just go back to it, and I'll close this comment out with this. Either someone was in on it, and when I say in on it, I mean they just had decided they weren't going to give the former president the best protection that money could buy, that the Secret Service was capable of, or they're wholly incompetent. I have not seen to date any evidence to make me believe that it is anything but one of those two, or maybe both. I don't know. Some folks are going to be mad at me for that, but I want more. Hey, I'm open to the idea that I could be wrong. Prove me wrong, please. Please prove me wrong. All right, moving on to our next story. Dems are split on whether or not they should dump Biden. Now, we've seen the reports. I'm sure you've seen all the reports all over the place. You had Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. That's the Senate Majority Leader and the House Minority Leader. Both went and visited, had meetings with the president, with President Biden in Las Vegas. And both of them, from what is understood, communicated with the president that, according to the numbers, there's no way forward. There's no way forward in which they believe that it is possible for the president to be able to win re-election. They made that very, very clear. At least they've said they've made that very, very clear. What's the guy's name? Is it Barry Katzen? A Democrat fundraiser. He decided that he went and he met with the president, and he's one of the big fundraisers for the Democratic Party and for the president. And he basically told Joe Biden, look, the money is drying up. It's drying up. There's not a whole lot of money out there. And if you're going to do this, if you're going to run, there's not going to be a whole lot of money to do it. By the way, I totally forgot, and I wanted to share this with you during the last item, but I wanted to make sure to do this for you. I wanted you to hear Mayorkas, because Mayorkas, even after this, now keep in mind, Mayorkas, this is the same guy who said this.
Is my testimony that the border is secure?
Yeah, the border is secure. This is the same guy talking about, and keep in mind, Secret Service is under the Department of Homeland Security.
On that, does the president have confidence in the Secret Service director after Saturday's failures?
I have 100% confidence in the director of the United States Secret Service. I have 100% confidence in the United States Secret Service. And what you saw on stage on Saturday with respect to individuals putting their own lives at risk for the protection of another is exactly what the American public should see every single day. It is what I indeed do.
So in other words, people should have to put their life on the line. In other words, people should get shot at every single day. That's what they should do. Really? This guy is the Baghdad Bob of the Biden administration. I think if there is any place where the buck stops, it's with him and with the head of the Secret Service. Both of them should be fired. Well, let's just put it this way. He's failed on so many different levels. This is just the latest. Anyway, but I wanted to make sure that I got that in for you. Now, this next thing I wanted to show you. Now, while you have some Democrats who are pleading with the president to pull out, to get out of the race, you've got some folks who are defending him. You've got the head of the National Newspapers Association, NNP, National Negro Newspapers Association. Anyway, he actually came out, Ben Chavis, came out and called people asking him to get out of the race, called it a lynching. We talked about that the other day. He literally referred to those who were asking the president to get out of the race because there's no way he can win. They're calling it a lynching. And now you have the head of the DNC. Well, he's now comparing it to January 6th.
He is now going to join us. He is our friend Jamie Harrison, the chairman of the Democratic National Committee. You have stumbled into quite a conversation, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much for being here.
Rachel, I followed it intensely. There's a reason why I don't have any hair.
Well, I have a whole bunch of questions written for you. I had a whole different setup. We were going to talk to you about a whole different thing. But let me just ask you to be real with us and respond to what you are hearing here as a man who is responsible for the fortunes of the Democratic Party and who has been throughout the Biden-Harris era. How do you hear this conversation among us? Is there anything that we're talking about you think that we're getting really the wrong way around?
Well, Rachel, this is always my guiding light, right? It is the millions of voters who went to the polls and voted for Joe Biden. And, oftentimes we talk about January 6th and the importance of that, and we talk about Donald Trump's effort to overturn the will of the people. Well, we got to be very careful in this situation that we don't overturn the will of the people. And I hear that specifically from black voters. All voters are important. Every vote matters and is important. But in the Democratic Party, we also understand this. This is a rule that if you don't have strong black support, you're not going to win an election. And we know that. We all know that. And I think it's really, really important in these conversations to understand that. These folks went to the polls, and Joe Biden got 14 million of those votes. 14 million votes. He controls over 90% of the delegates to the Democratic Convention. He, in essence, is the nominee of our party. So there's a lot of academic conversations, but in the end of the day, Joe Biden has to decide. And the decision that he has made, that he has expressed to me, and I think to all of the American people, is that he's in this race. He's in this race to win. He's in this race to protect our freedoms, our rights, our economy, but most important, the future of our kids. I mean, I want to be able to turn to my son and say, yes, that's my president of the United States, who's been the most transformational president of our lifetime. Look at student loans, look at climate change. I can go on in terms of how this president has transformed our nation. I don't want to turn to my sons and say, yes, that's our president. He's been twice impeached. He was convicted 34 times. A judge said that he raped a woman. And we can go on and on and on. That is the choice that we have in this election. And I believe, folks, we got a good man. We got a decent man. We got a transformational president, probably the most transformational president of my lifetime. Republicans are galvanizing behind their guy, who I've laid out his resume. Why the hell aren't we galvanizing behind our guy, who has been? Wow.
Okay. So let's there's so many things to touch on there. So first of all, what he started off, and when he compares it to January 6th, he's talking about an attempt to overturn an election. So let's keep in mind, because he's the incumbent, nobody ran against him except for one guy. And that guy caught so much grief. Now, and by the way, the reason he ran, he said, is our nominee is old and senile. I mean, he didn't say it like that, but he said he's old and senile. He can't make it through another term. People are going to have issues. They're going to see how old and senile he is. And he got castigated. He practically got run out of the party on a rail for saying it. Because he said the quiet part out loud. Because he said the part that you weren't supposed to say. The part that they were all hiding from everybody. He said it. And so they practically lynched him. Practically. But anyway, so then you've got now, they're like, okay, well, and I think to a certain degree, the DNC chair makes a decent case as to one of the reasons why they need to keep. Because number one, yes, he controls the delegates. He's the one who, number one, gets to choose whether or not he's in or out of the race. And the only way in which you remove him is with a 25th Amendment. And Kamala Harris is not going to do that. Democrats are not going to do that because that is going to be a media circus. They're not going to engage in that. They would rather lose than do that. Because they're going to have to, that would mean removing him from being president now and making Kamala Harris president. And as I've stated many times on this show before, she is the only politician at the national level who is less popular, who is less liked, who has a lower approval rating than Joe Biden. That's Kamala Harris. Or Kamala Harris, whichever she prefers. Anyway, all that having been said, then he talks about he's the most transformational president. Okay, I agree with him, but not for the reasons that he thinks. I think he's transformational because he took 1.4% inflation and turned it into double-digit inflation. I think he's transformational because he took us from being an energy independent nation, from being totally dependent on our enemies for energy. He took us from being respected, if not feared, around the world, where nobody would mess with us or our allies, to being a laughingstock, where our enemy. He took us from being at a point where our allies knew that we would come to their defense, to not being able to be counted on by anybody who calls us friend. He took us from respected to being a joke. He took us from a thriving economy to a contracting economy. He took us from 2% interest rates up to 7% interest rates. Right? He took us from a society that had strong men and strong women to a society that couldn't tell you what a woman is. So yeah, he's transformational. And not in a good way. I always like that saying. You ever heard the saying, out of the frying pan into the fire? Yeah, that's transformational. It ain't good. But in the end, what's going on here is that he's got people melting down. I mean, he is literally, what's going on right now in this election, the left is melting down and they are scared. They are literally running scared. There was an interview that was being done at the convention. And when I say they're watching this convention. I mean, I will not be surprised if this is the most watched convention of, the modern era. When I say the modern era, now that we got all these cable channels and all these streaming services and all these alternatives, you're not forced to tune in because there's only 3 major networks and all 3 are tuned into that. But I'm talking like people are watching because they want to know what's up with Donald Trump. They want to know what Republicans are going to do. And it's got the left losing their mind. And you want to know exactly how much they're losing their mind? Listen to Van Jones's analysis of what's going on at this convention, or what's going on within the Republican Party versus what's going on within the Democratic Party.
A bullet couldn't stop Trump. A virus just stopped Biden. You've got the nominees of this party getting their butts kissed. Biden's getting his butt kicked by his own party. The Democrats are coming apart. The Republicans are coming together.
So that brought a lot of criticism. People lost their minds. Now, Van Jones has said a lot of things that I take issue with. But I think he hit the nail on the head. He's really getting the essence of what is going on at this convention right now. And for pointing that out, Mr. Keith Olbermann, you might remember him. Formerly was on ESPN. He used to be a sportscaster or sports commentator, whatever you want to call him. Dude, what's the word I'm looking for? He let's just say he's incredibly left wing. And he decided that he wasn't very happy with what Van Jones had to say. And so he decided to put out this tweet. He decided to say, fire this a-hole / moron, Trump sucker at Van Jones tonight. Your remaining 837 viewers will accept no less. And here was the message that he put out via, I guess, I don't know if this was via social media or via Twitter, but this is the message that he put out.
After 5 days of no confirmation that the injury to Trump's ear in the assassination attempt was actually from a bullet, we have to now assume that they're lying about something that happened to Trump on Saturday. No one has confirmed it, and there is no good reason why no one has confirmed it. All that and much more on the Thursday Countdown edition of the podcast, now available wherever you podcast.
So in other words, all he can talk about is, well, clearly something ain't right. Clearly Trump didn't get shot. That's his response. Folks, they are melting down. The folks on the left have lost their ever-loving minds. They have lost their ever-loving minds. They have no idea what to do. They don't. And it's bad. It is really bad in their eyes. In fact, they brought up the idea that he talked about the fact that Biden. They talked about Biden having COVID, right? That's the big news. And we talked about this the other day. Biden now has COVID. And he's down for the count. He's down, went home for the weekend. Now, I'm wondering, does he really have COVID? Does he? Or is this just a reason for him to go and sit down and really start to talk and think about what it is that they're dealing with? But even then, even with that, they can't help but spin. The left can't help but spin and talk about and try to prop up Joe Biden.
Here's the question that I have on that. These two men are both elderly. Donald Trump is an elderly man who, for whatever reason, was given 9 seconds to take a iconic photo op during an active shooter situation. Weird situation. We'll figure that out one day. But his survival of that and bouncing right back and going right to his convention is being conveyed in the media world as a sign of strength. This current president of the United States is 81 years old and has COVID. Should he be fine in a couple of days? Doesn't that convey exactly the same thing? That he's strong enough, older than Trump, to have gotten something that used to really be fatal to people his age. So if he does fine out of it and comes back and is able to do rallies, isn't that exactly the same?
It should.
I mean, it's not exactly the same. It's not the same incident, but it's an elderly man coming through out of an illness.
It should.
Okay, so let's talk about why it shouldn't. Number one, you're talking about, first let's just talk about the whole thing of COVID. Yes, she's right. COVID-19, the coronavirus, in particular Omicron, or not Omicron, before Omicron, it was significant. It was hard on senior citizens. It was hard on people that were within Joe Biden's age bracket. But this isn't that coronavirus. This isn't Omicron. This is more like Omicold, right? And that's because much of the symptoms, the issues with the later versions were not lower respiratory, meaning in the lungs, heart area, but more upper respiratory, kind of like a cold. So this is really, I mean, and if you've had COVID lately, and I have, it's like a bad cold. It's like a serious cold. I mean, I wouldn't ignore it. I would definitely take care of it. But it's not like the original, right? It's not like the OG COVID. So if it's like a really bad cold, like I'll call it really bad, the flu, right? If it's really bad, how does that compare to being, I don't know, shot in the head? Please. I mean, keep in mind, there's not just the physical aspects of it in terms of, he got shot in the ear, right? It's not like he took one to the dome, right? He hit his ear. But pretty much, I mean, everything else is still kind of there, but still the psychological aspect of it. And I'm just going to throw this out. I'm just going to throw this out there. Not many people, and I think there are a lot of us out there who want to believe that we would have the strength and fortitude and the gumption to do this. But within seconds of a shot of gunshots whizzing by your head, clipping your ear, going down to the ground, would have the intestinal fortitude to stand up, say, "Where's my shoe? We need to fight. I mean, who does that? I'm saying I'd like to think that I would do that. I'd like to think I would. But I don't know that I would, because you never know until you know. You never know what you're going to do in a situation like that unless you're in the situation like that. That's what's so amazing about that. There's no PTSD, or at least he's not showing any outward signs of PTSD. He's been at the convention every day. I will say this, he does seem to be a different Donald Trump. Have you noticed how conspicuously silent he's been? He's not doing a lot of talking. Everyone else is doing the talking. I can't think of a day, of a week, in a time in which this many days have gone by and I haven't seen a breaking news story about some message that some tweet or some message or something he said being out. I can't think of a time. So I'm wondering. Anyway, we'll see tonight when he gives a speech tonight, but I'm real curious to see how this has impacted. He said he was rewriting his whole speech behind this. But yeah, dude has COVID. No, he's contemplating. He may have COVID. I don't know how much that slows him down because dude's already, I mean, he's at a snail's pace now, or a sloth's pace now, or before. Maybe he's at a snail's pace. I don't know. But I hope the president gets over his Omicold or his COVID. And then gets back out on the campaign trail, because I think, people need to see the difference between these two. He hid out in the basement during the 2020 election, and people gave him the benefit of the doubt. Well, now he doesn't have the benefit of the doubt anymore. If he's going to run for president, he needs to prove that he's capable of doing the job. Well, let me clarify. that he's not too senile to do the job. Because we already know. He's already demonstrated clearly he is not capable of doing the job. Anyway, now, by the way, that's not because he's old. That's not because he's senile. It's just because he sucks at being president. And that will now bring us to our parting shots. Parting shots are brought to you by Hog Holsters. Just go to hogholsters.com. Use the discount code The Rundown. All caps, no spaces. Get your Hog Holster today on discount on us. All right, in honor of the Secret Service, and because, well, I didn't have a lot of time to look for a bunch of stuff, we're gonna do a countdown because I know y'all love lists. It is, though, from our friends over at the Babylon Bee, fake news that you can count on. So you want to be a Secret Service agent? Here are 12 job requirements, top 12 requirements to be a Secret Service agent. Let us go down the list. Number 1, the ability to navigate deadly 5-degree roof pitch. Not for the faint of heart, because as we know, only the best of the best, well, most Secret Service agents evidently do not appear to be able to traverse this, or at least not according to their command, at least not according to their head, the people who runs them. Anyway, then we've got can holster a gun in under 60 seconds. Wow. Okay. It says bonus points if you can get it in 4 tries. Number 3, able to avoid able to avoid getting distracted by people screaming, "Hey, there's a guy on the roof. There's a guy with a gun on the roof." Wow. Okay. That's a good one. Focus is key. Be less than 5'6" tall so that the president can see over you in case someone's trying to shoot at you. Must be able to easily hide behind the president. Oh, wow. Number 5, able to do at least 2 girl push-ups. Only the strongest can make the cut. Number 6, already owns sunglasses. The Secret Service is on a budget after all. Number 7, can identify the most likely places for assassins to shoot from. Not to guard them, mind you. That's what we would be that's just what they would be expecting. Number 8, willing to shield the president with your body after he's already been shot. Obviously, patience is critical. Number 9, vision between 2020 and 21,000. Just run in the direction of the screaming. Number 10, can pull off a 360-degree no-scope sniper headshot while playing Call of Duty Warzone, that is. Number 11, skilled at taking pictures of assassins setting up their shot. They will be very helpful later in seeing where the bullets came from. And then number 12, ability to distinguish serious threats, like a grandma with a small American flag, as opposed to a non-threat like a crazed loner holding a rifle on top of a nearby building. Wow. And, well, if you want to be a Secret Service agent, I guess that's what you need, at least during this administration. All right, folks, well, that's going to bring us to the end of our program. We very much appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you liking and sharing the program. Before we go, we're going to go ahead and do our quick shout out to our sponsors. We're going to start with Hitman Industries. Rifle and pistol caliber barrels available for you at hitmanindustries.net. The California Republican Assembly. If you want to be a part of California's future today, join CRA. Go to hogholsters.com and get your hog holster today on discount by using the discount code The Rundown. All caps, no spaces, one word. Get your discount today. And then finally, you can find all things tactical but the gun at uscombatgear.com. And that, once again, is going to be it. We very much appreciate you tuning in, liking, and sharing the program. We're going to be back tomorrow on Free for All Friday. Thank God it will be Friday. Until then, y'all stay safe, have fun, and if you get a chance, remember to send a few downrange. Holla at you tomorrow.